They circled us. Our property was used for this purpose of surveillance, and it was just relentless. We had to rely on them for access every single time. So we were having to interact with RCMP at all times, all throughout the day, continuously for weeks.
The CFIA has control of your property. They were gracious enough to allow you to access the house, and that's it.
Gracious. You got to understand from our position, we're separate property from the ostrich ranch.
Your property is under warrant.
But why?
I'm not going to explain that to you.
On November 6th and 7th, 2025, many people were outraged about what they saw take place right here at Universal Ostrich Farms. That was the slaughter of hundreds of healthy ostriches who had an avian flu a year prior. But today I'm bringing you an update about another controversy that was unfolding within that controversy. That is what took place at this property behind me, neighbors of Universal Ostrich farmers. They are family, but they had nothing to do with the farm. Yet that didn't stop the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, with the help of the RCMP, from seizing their property and damaging it according to their allegations. And that's why I'm bringing you an update on their legal action against the RCMP and CFIA right now.
You had this September 3rd, but nobody's contacted my sister or husband to say that you were about to invade her property with a search warrant, because it's an invasion of privacy. And that's what she said, out of the rights of my own, should we have
Why are you shaking your head?
The warrant's been affected. Once we've come onto the property, we've left a copy at the
Okay, just said September 3rd on the warrant.
Right? So that's all that is. So now that we've affected it and given it to you, it's in effect, right? Right now we have control of the property.
Yeah, but my sister's not here for her to give it to her.
So could we also...
No, I want to make this clear. My sister's not here, or her husband, right now.
We will follow up with that as well.
After you've invaded her property.
All right, Allison, good to see you again. You guys have gone through so much, but you're not giving up the fight. You've actually started the beginning of a lawsuit against the RCMP and the CFIA. Tell us why.
I think it's the first step and the easiest step. It's the most simple thing to me is that they seized this property with a warrant that did not have the lawful property owners' names on it. They then terrorized the residents continuously for 52 days. They parked here and policed the gate, and then did continuous surveillance on us instead of the CFIA, but called it impartial the whole time. It was absolutely not impartial, and they terrorized us. They were aggressive at times. They were exerting dominance in ways that were completely unnecessary, considering it's a family farm. And it was not for biosecurity, them seizing this property. It was because they wanted it for operational logistics and to create the roads that would truck in their hay bales and truck out the carcasses.
You know, like, we need to make a trip.
And then you're making a decision as an adult, so you can leave the property and not come back.
Why are you doing this? You're saying if I need stuff for my baby, I have to get my mother-in-law to go drive and get stuff for me?
Then she won't be allowed back.
Karen's address is this road. Karen is my mother-in-law. Like,
Putting a light on us. They're putting a light on us right now. We have a spotlight on us. Oh my God. What is going on? How is this happening?
Now, the notice of civil claim makes certain allegations. One of those is a damage to property. Tell us about that.
Oh, they created 2 new access points through this property through places that were deliberately grown in. They used the hayfields that were active hayfields to create their roadways that they then got stuck in. It created mud. They didn't do it right. And then they contaminated it with kill pen hay after, when they were trying to truck things out but getting stuck. Like, we watched these fields be absolutely destroyed. The ruts are so deep, and there's a collapsed culvert. They prevented us from harvesting our crops, even under complete supervision, because they were parked at our crops 24/7 for 52 days, and we still were not allowed to harvest.
Also, harassment is on there. I think I know where you're going with this, but in your own words, why is that part of the suit?
Oh, we had continuous drone surveillance done on us. We were in view of them continuously 24/7. They circled us. Our property was used for this purpose of surveillance, and it was just relentless. We had to rely on them for access every single time. So we were having to interact with RCMP at all times, all throughout the day, continuously for weeks.
That sounded like a gunshot. What the hell?
And Oz, as we covered before, all of this was under the Health of Animals Act. It was as if the RCMP had to defer to everything to the CFIA, including you being told this when you were told you'll be able to go into your mom's own home.
The CFIA has control of your property. They were gracious enough to allow you to access the house, and that's it.
Gracious.
You got to understand from our position, we're separate property from the ostrich ranch.
Your property is under warrant.
But why?
I'm not going to explain that to you.
Oh.
I give one warning, and I know there's been some misinformation. Listen.
Yeah, the CFI has never spoken to us ever.
Never.
I won't get into that because I don't deal with their communication channels.
Now, recently, we let many know some good news for the Universal Ostrich Farms. It has been determined by an independent tribunal that the way that the farmers were served from November 6th to the 26th, that quarantine order, it didn't stand. It wasn't lawfully served, which has brought into question for the farmers whether or not the things that occurred during that time, which includes the start of the cull, was lawful at all. Does this impact your situation here in any way?
I think it's really highly relevant because they were determined to have not served it because they only served it by email and not in person, which is what they're supposed to do. And we were not served in person or email. We were never, ever, ever contacted by them until the only time we had contact with them was when they had already had the property for 2 weeks. We received a 3-minute phone call and then had maybe 2 emails ever responded to. So yeah, we never heard from them at all. I would say calling this a quarantine or they called it UOF secondary quarantine property is a pretty misleading title in my opinion, because this was never quarantined ever.
And you were never, and your family was never Universal Ostrich Farms, which I think is the biggest thing. And there's a neighbor right over there. They were fine, but for some reason not here. Where can people go to keep up with what's next with this fight?
I'm pretty active on Facebook. I'm not really a social media person, but I think Rebel News is probably the place to go, or me on Facebook.
Well, we're going to keep following this story and beyond, including in our upcoming documentary probing into the cull and CFIA's handling of farmers for many years at ostrichfarmdocumentary.com. Many of you want to avenge the ostriches, but first we need to find out why. Why the CFIA culled them the way they did in the first place. To do so, myself and Sid Vizard behind the camera have been working hard on an investigative documentary. If you want to be a part of getting those answers, please go to our special website at ostrichfarmdocumentary.com.